Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grace of a Military Child in Life podcast. Military families are not like your traditional family. They are strong, brave, resilient, and some of the most incredible people I know. My name is Gracie, a U.S. Army BRAT, and I am your host. I am honored to be able to give military family members like myself a place for them to share their stories and experiences in the military life. Stay tuned for this week's guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Grace, a Military Child in Life. Today, I'm here with Riley, who is an Army brat. So, Riley, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you for being here. So start by telling us what it was like being, or what it is like, being a military brat. You never leave it. So.
Hi. So my dad has been in since he graduated high school. He originally started doing National Guard just to pay for school. But then after he graduated college, he realized that he wanted to do it full time. And by then he'd met and married my mom. So they joined the lovely life of militaryhood. I was born when my dad was a captain. He'd already been on one deployment before I was born. But after I was 9 months old and he left for almost 2 years, that he missed my first steps, first words, first birthday, all of that. I don't remember any of that, but that's like the main moments. My mom made a scrapbook. She was awesome, trying to keep us together. So during that time, she has one for every single day. And he gave me, it was a video that he made, a voice recording every night whenever he would get back, kind of like talking to me, telling me about his day. And he kept me a journal as well that I could read. So it's neat now that I'm older, getting to go back and see all of that. And then his third deployment, but second with me alive, was whenever I was in first grade. And he was gone for about 13 months at that time. And that was one of those I kind of understood what was going on. Like I could see the news and I knew it wasn't good. But I also would tell everyone that my dad had left me. And my mom was a teacher in the same school district that I went to. So people would go to her saying, "We're so sorry." And she was like, "Oh, no." You have to explain.
You're causing a mess.
He's coming back. And then his last deployment was a little different. He was back to Iraq again for the fourth time. And he was a battalion commander. And that was really the time I was 16 years old. He left on the day of my 16th birthday.
Oh, my God.
I really understood the world around me at that point, and I went through all the emotions. I feel like I was grieving that lost time because he is my best friend in the whole wide world. And a lot of people even say I'm a daddy's girl through and through.
And that's the way I am.
Yes, we are so much alike. It's funny sometimes. Yeah. That was when I really decided, because, you can look at things from a negative perspective, and I have a bad habit of that sometimes, but I wanted to find the positive in it. Like, yes, it was an awful time, my 16th birthday. He didn't get to teach me how to drive, but you can very evidently tell that my mom taught me whenever I still get to the park. And also, too, with him being a squadron commander and wanting to make the best out of it for the families, because while he is helping the troops as well, we wanted to really do something for the soldiers back at home and all of their families. So we started a kids FRG group, because growing up, I always saw the need for that in our community. Like, yes, the wives and husbands would get to go discuss and debrief deployments, and there's good and bad parts to FRGs, like everyone. But the children were just sent to another room to go play. And I really saw that need for the children to discuss and talk about, because a lot of people think they're too young. They're not. Even when I was 5 years old, I could tell you exactly the emotions I was feeling, and I didn't understand why, but I didn't really have anyone to talk to about that, because my mother is amazing, but she also didn't understand it from a child's perspective. So we really started meeting, and we would talk with the kids about the big emotions we were feeling having a parent out of our home. And we would make crafts to send to soldiers. Majority of my dad's troops are made of single younger soldiers. So we made sure to send them crafts and just happies and pick-me-ups. And it was really a good way for not only the kids to bond with each other, but also get to put a name with the face and get to send them letters and just have all the morale boosting all together. We wanted to really find something positive in that experience and not just sit there and just dwell on the negative about it. That was really, I think, being his last deployment before he finally retired, that was just a good way, had peace for all of it. I really feel like I'm sure I could yap all day about that. But yes, but we have kind of a unique perspective. So my dad is AGR, which is active guard reserve. So he's still a traditional he would do guard drills, but also during the week, that was his full-time job. So he did 20 years federal and then retired after 32 years active duty. So we moved all around the state of Mississippi. So it was kind of a different, unique experience. But what it was funny, my dad had a camper. I didn't do well with change. I never really liked change. So during the week, he would take his camper. We called it his van down by the river. And then on the weekends, he would come home to us. And then we would go see him during summers just to make it work. So it's a different perspective to it, but still had the moving around and then the gone constantly.
Yeah. We were a reserve family. So it is definitely, different coming from AGR or reserve families because you're not moving across the country every 2 years or around the world. And it's so different. And especially, staying in one area. And then, at some points there's kids around you who don't necessarily understand the emotions that you're going through. And that's hard.
Yes, definitely. And that's what one thing about bringing the community in our area that we lived in. I was thankful that my father's battalion command was around our area, just trying to get the kids, because you would never know that over half the community around us were military children. And it was just kind of pushed to the side, and not many people. But I mean, civilian life, they don't understand the difference. A lot of people thought when I said my dad was getting deployed that I said unemployed. So I was like, not exactly. So just trying to also show the community and the support of the community during all of that. It was amazing. They understood. They were the first people to reach out for donations. We've had businesses sponsor a dining out for all the kids. And it was just amazing to see like businesses and local communities come out to support military children. So it was a great experience to see.
Yeah. See, that's what this world really needs more of is, showcasing the military children, because sure, like we love the life for the most part. A good percentage of us love the life, or at least most of it. But like we just were born into it and we go with the flow, and, we don't really have a way out of it. And it's hard to, like you said, understand what we're going through. In first grade, I probably would have just said my dad's gone too. Like that's all I knew. That's all I knew is he was gone. But like, I mean, he wasn't really there for much of my younger years, but or like infant years. He had a 7-year break in service. So he was there for most of my childhood years. But during when I was a baby, like I wouldn't talk when he was gone. Like I did not talk at all. I was then like delayed in speech because of that. And then I didn't walk until he was around. Like there were so many milestones, like, as a child that I just didn't do because he wasn't around. And, even as a baby, you can sense that, which is so crazy to, the psychology behind that.
Yes, what my mom would always say, because I didn't really know him as a baby and he was gone from 9 months on, but I would eat ice cream. My dad, whenever he was younger, he could get away with eating a pint of ice cream every night before he went to bed. And she said that I didn't even know that his mannerisms, like I had those and I didn't even know him. Really, like she said, I would want to eat ice cream every single night before I went to bed. And I had zero idea that he did that. But yes, I mean, just there are a lot of positives, but people also are, I don't know if it's scared to step on toes or anything, but realize that there are mental health problems that go along with being a military child. I mean, I can vividly remember my mom having to rock me to sleep at nights where I couldn't quit crying because I missed my dad, or just as a child, not getting the same experiences others did because while he was home, he was still a battalion commander or an XO, and he was on the phone constantly. And it wasn't that he didn't love me or want to be there, have his priorities in line. It's just the Army was also his baby. We would always joke and say that he had 601 kids. So he would have his battalion and me as a child. So just really getting to understand that perspective. But also, I mean, it makes you realize the value of time, just in the overwhelming of pride that you get. I mean, that's why I always tell him all the time that I've never known any life different than him being my superhero.
Yeah.
So just getting it, also feel that as well.
Yeah. Because you grow up with this like sense of pride. Like my mom did scrapbooks too. And one that I always turned to was my first trip to, Fort Leonard Wood. And my dad was stateside deployed there. And so it was an unaccompanied tour. And so my mom and I like flew down there, and it was my first plane trip. And, you know, I was always so proud to show that to my friends who would come over, like, oh, look, this is what I did as a baby, because my dad was off doing cool things, like,
Right.
And I was always, you have that pride instilled in you as, a young child of being an Army brat or being, a military brat, because the lengths that your parents go through for their service.
Yes, but the sacrifice. I mean, both my parents, I can't imagine my mom raising me by herself from a young age, and then having to deal with all the meltdowns I would have, or just the unfamiliar places, having to get used to adjustment and change, and having to coach me and talk me through it. Because a lot of people say like military spouses also sign up for it, but in my mom's case, she didn't. And all she didn't know that this was what our life was going to turn out to be.
Yeah.
But yes, just getting to see the sacrifices both of them have made. And I think the older I get, the more I see it and I understand a little better about why we had to go through the lengths we did. But also, I mean, the relationships built. Me and my mom are actually talking about this last night about how, I mean, yes, your family will always have your back, but your military family, and we could call them the drop of a hat and they would be here in 2 seconds. And just that bond you build, they become your second family.
They really do. Because literally anyone, and we know people around the country, around the world, but you make one phone call and they're there for you, or even just driving through, on a road trip, going somewhere, and you need a hotel and someone there, their doors are open, It's incredible to see, we go through some crazy things that it sounds like a fairy tale, when you're explaining things. It sounds so unreal, but we go through these things and we just, like you said, you gain this military family along with your own family.
Yes, but especially when I got to college, trying to explain like the lifestyle I grew up in, I'm like, it's not weird. I promise, like it's normal. So I would talk on the phone or to my dad or something. They're like, "What are you even talking about?" I was like, "It's not weird. It's normal." Because they're like, "It sounds like a cult you grew up in." I was like, "No, like it's normal life," and I couldn't imagine. I was like, I feel more at home when I'm around those people than I will around anyone. And just the bonds you create that last forever. Like there's people I haven't, since my dad recently retired, seen in a while, but I know I could call them and drop a hat and they would be there regardless, just for that bond built. And also military kids that I've met, their experiences too. Definitely some of the best friendships.
Yeah, it's so true. And even if you don't, I say this all the time, but if you don't talk to someone for years, like there are people that I haven't talked to in almost a decade, but still like you just reconnect with them and it's like no time has ever passed because of that mutual level of understanding of, we had a portion of our lives that were spent together. We've both been through chaos and, trauma and struggles, but, we understand where each other is coming from. And, it's so amazing to see, people like you who still are involved in the military community, even, as an adult, because it's just a lifestyle that's hard to get rid of. And I don't think you ever really get rid of it.
Yes, I think there will always be things in my adulthood that I do that are very different. Like, what are you doing? Like, you just don't understand.
This is how we did it growing up.
Yes, like the organization, color-coded planner, like everything has a schedule. It always will. Like if Dad's retired now, so he's home all the time. We're like, well, when's he going to go somewhere? When's the next work trip? Like, come on now. Like, I'm not used to this.
Yeah. It's just so weird, going into life as an adult, being a military kid. And even though, my dad retired when I was 12, but, I grew up as a caregiver and I grew up, getting his leg for him or making sure his meds were right or whatever it may be. And so you step out into the, civilian adult world and you're like, oh, well, where do I fit in? Where does this, crazy lifestyle that I lived, fit into this?
Yes, and it definitely, I've seen how it's made me a lot different than my peers around me. Just understanding the value of time, like
Yeah.
just being able and adaptable. Like I do miss people, but I don't get like it's severely attached. I'm like, I can't leave them. Like I'm good at saying goodbye, moving locations. If I'm in a place for too long, I'm like itching, like, okay, what's the next
Yes.
move we're going to? Like I can't stay still in this one location for a long time. Like I'm used to constant change. And I do think it makes you better adaptable as an adult, but also you appreciate things more. I feel like whenever my dad's around now with just me and my mom, my dad, I'm an only child. I just sit there sometimes and just smile, just thinking the days I would break for this, like getting to see this. I spent Father's Day with my dad for the first time in 21 years this year.
Wow.
And I really didn't know what to get in for Father's Day. And I was like, I have no idea. Usually a phone call or a card in the mail does the work. But I was getting to think like these were the days that I used to pray for all the time as a child. So just really getting to enjoy that time. I start physical therapy school in January. So I'm really just getting to spend that quality time playing on the golf course with him and just getting to finally settle down.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you, because that physical therapy school is huge.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And I know how much work that takes. I've looked at doing it. It's a lot of work. But I also know how important physical therapists are too. Seeing my dad through his recovery journey and just the relationships created with physical therapists are, insane, because, we can still call his physical therapist today and she'd be there for any of us. And, it's really special to see those relationships. And, it makes me emotional.
Yes, that's one thing it really drew me to. It's just the being able to make an impact on a patient's life and build that relationship, that I'm not in the room for 5 minutes and then leaving to another patient. Like
Right.
I get to spend that quality time and not only work on their physical health, but also mental, just emotional, just get to really be there in that step as a caregiver. So I'm really looking forward to it and I can't wait. I love the talks.
Yeah, no, that is so exciting. And, again, like you just value things like that so much more because you've been through the hard times, you've seen hard things. And, I grew up around physical therapy. Like I've seen guys who should have never been able to walk again. Like my dad, they told would never be able to run again. And he ran the Army 10 miler. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, things like that. It's just, you realize how thankful you really are for the small things. And even like you said, your dad being home for Father's Day for the first time and just getting to spend that time together. It's really, there are so many things that you look back on and you really cherish because you don't know what it's like doing it for the first time.
All right. That's one thing that's really puts into perspective. Just try and look at the positives of all of this came from my childhood instead of dwelling on, oh, he missed this much time. This is how much I get to be grateful for that I have now. And I get to look at all the bonds that I've created through the military, all the friendships. I always say I have so many extra parents across the world. And just not only do I have my parents, but I also have the bonds of others. Because that was one thing throughout my dad's entire career that he always preached to us. Because he was enlisted before he crossed over to the officer side, and he always made sure that we knew that the rank on someone's shirt did not matter. You know the person, and you get to know the person. So that was one of his main goals, just to always get to know every single person and have to be able to share that moment with them. So me and my mom also tried to do the same, to get to know every single family member, get to hear their stories and their perspectives, and we can learn something from every single person. And I really enjoyed that, just getting to know people from all different backgrounds and how they came to this life and getting their perspective, advice on different situations, because they get it more than anyone. Just getting to talk to different people, hear different stories. Even the kids camp I'm working next week, that's one of my favorite parts, is at nighttime whenever they're all getting winded down ready for bed in the barracks, and just listening to their conversations and getting to hear like the mind of a child and how they experience different emotions. Because a lot of, especially last year at the camp, a lot of the kids' parents were deployed. So I remember being that age and having all the questions and hearing them ask among each other, the innocence of a child trying to understand different stories, just getting to go over there and talk to them. kind of tell them things I wish I would have heard as a child as well.
Yeah.
And it just puts it in a whole different perspective of getting to help those kids through difficult times and help them have the best week of their life.
Yeah. And that's the best part, is creating those relationships, because you can't get through this life alone. Like, that's just hands down. You have to have, your own little army around you to get through this. And the military in general is just one big melting pot of literally the entire world. People move here from other countries literally to be part of our military. And it's so incredible to see just how so many people from so many different backgrounds can come together to make up this military. And just getting to know the people is the best part of it, because those are relationships that you'll really are once in a lifetime and you'll cherish forever, because, one piece of advice, or one first hug that you get when you get to a new space, or the person who sits down at the lunch table with you because you're alone. Those are the things that you'll cherish forever. And I feel that as military kids, as military families, that we have that, little bit in us that we can take that first step and create a new relationship or get to know someone, because we're so used to it that we're not necessarily scared of, making new friends, or super shy.
Yes, that's one thing. I don't think I ever had a choice if I could be shy. When I was younger, I liked to kind of sit in the back of the crowd, but then like more I'd see my parents getting out there talking, the more I would too. And I really began to enjoy it and didn't see it as a chore. I enjoyed getting to know the different families, to hear their stories, how they ended up here, like kind of how they were feeling about everything, and answer their questions, because I don't like anyone to feel like they're left in the dark. Just trying to include everyone and show that you can look at it two different ways. You can be the person that goes to Facebook, rants, complains about how much you hate the military, hate your life, all this and that. Or you can look at it from the side of, okay, I get to have this overwhelming sense of pride. Let's see how many people I can help. Which I always think it's better. You're given a life as a military brat. You don't get a choice. You're born into it. Uncle Sam has always been my uncle. I never had a DOD ID from the day I was born.
Yeah.
So I could either go and dwell on the fact that, oh, this is my life, or I could look at the positive and see how many other families that I can reach, or how many other kids I can help within a hard time.
Yeah. And now, you're still doing that to this day, of helping out other military kids and showing them the positive and the amazing things that can come from this life, as long as you are willing to take that first step if it's scary. And, people like you are there to make others feel more comfortable too. And you need both people. You need the shy people and you need the extroverts who are there to welcome you in.
Yes, that's what I love about the camp too. Is all their different personalities all come out too, and you have the ones that maybe their parent just deployed and they're having a really hard time with it, and none of the civilian kids around them at school can really understand, like, because there are a lot of those kids that come with traditional guard children.
Yeah.
But whenever they come here, they're getting to see for the first time, like, there are kids that are like me and that can understand the emotions I'm feeling when mom or dad's gone, and just getting to see those friendships be made is just, it's honestly a beautiful thing to watch happen, to get to see the mind of a child and how they all work together to understand what they're going through. It's like, oh, my parent was going this part of the year. This is what I did to make me feel better. And this at night time, really just getting to sit down and talk about it with them, like during our breaks. And then also they get to go do, it's called mates, where they get to go see different Bradleys. And my dad was a tanker, so I'm pretty partial to the tanks. Tanks and Bradleys. So getting just to see their face, like, oh, look, my parent gets to do this or this, and their eyes light up, and then they make the connections when they'll meet a soldier that knows their parent, and they understand that it's not such a bad thing, or they finally get to see what their parents doing. They're not just, oh, they're away because they don't want to be around me. No, they're away doing this. Your freedom. And then all their faces light up and they talk about what their parent does, and it's so sweet to watch.
Yeah. I can even say from an adult's perspective, like those events that I've gotten to go to, as an adult, being surrounded by, I've gone with so many like Silver Star children and Gold Star children. And so being able to just be around those people and sit around at night and talk, literally till 3 a.m. and have to get up at 7, late nights talking with them around the fire, or whatever it may be, like just sitting there with those people. That's the best thing ever. And I did have an opportunity to go see Tanks last year, and I was pretty blown away too. So I think it's such really a cool thing. Yeah. I was like starstruck that I got to sit inside of a tank, and it was my lock screen for forever. So, but yeah, like those are literally the things that make this life what it is. You know, everyone I talk to, it really boils down to community in some way, shape, or form, whether if it's like through an event or through school or through, you know, random lunches or events that are thrown on base or FRGs or whatever it may be. It literally all boils down to the community that we get.
Yes, I think a lot of people just don't realize it's what you make it. Like there's bad apples everywhere. I mean, I've seen some FRGs, but I've also seen some great FRGs. Like my mom's old FRG leader, we still talk to her all the time, and she's an amazing woman. Like it just all depends on how you make it. Like some of my best friendships I have came from the military, and the other military brats. Because whenever I'm frustrated, she gets me. She understands what it's like whenever I'm like, I've been in this place too long, or I'm tired of this, that. She gets it.
And they don't think you're crazy.
But I've been on the phone arguing with TRICARE all day, and I'll call her and be like, they're about to kick me off because I'm 21 years old. She gets it.
Yes.
So just having those friendships too, and you will find your people. And that's what you're not going to be just best friends with everyone, but you will find your people. And just as long as you love everybody and encourage and always look at the bright side, I think that's the key to surviving this crazy life.
It really is, because, oh my goodness, that's exactly what it is a crazy life. And if you blink, you're going to miss out on so many incredible opportunities that you could have done so much with. So it's like, keep your eyes wide and your head up and just keep going, because that's really all you can do.
It's a crazy ride.
Yes. But one last thing is, what is one piece of advice that you would give to a military child?
Always find the bright side of every situation, even when it's tough. To always find the bright side and never be afraid to ask for help. That was one thing I always pride my mother on, is she never made me feel like I was a burden or invalidated my feelings about my dad being gone. She always sat there and listened to me with empathy and would help me see the bright side and the way out, and that it was okay to miss my dad, but life didn't stop just because he was gone, that there were so many opportunities, memories that we could make together, and just finding your people and realizing that the military community is amazing and they will always have your back, and just keep leaning on your family, military family, personal family, and just keep going along on the crazy ride.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Riley, for being on the podcast and sharing about...
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you are doing so many incredible things, and I wish you all the best, and all the best during PT school, too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, follow, and comment. Also, be sure to check out Instagram and Facebook at Grace of a Military Child and Life for more awesome content. For information on the podcast, Military Child Bigs and Littles, Go AMCL blog, or other resources, visit www.goamcl.org. You can also email me at Gracie, that's GRACIE @GOAMCL.org, with any questions or comments. To be a guest on the podcast, you can schedule it at www.goamcl.org/schedule a podcast, all one word, or contact me via social media or email. Stay tuned for the next episode where another incredible story is shared.